Hey there, Steven here from Leadjetty.com. In this video, I want to take a look at how we can start building out a little bit more sophisticated form flows. So in an earlier video, we looked at how to set up a simple two-step flow with just a single page here. And again, this is just an example page. And when you submit this, it redirects you to a very bare bones thank you page and says we'll be getting in touch. And this is a pretty typical workflow on the web. You'll find this all over the place if you go, and you'll find people who are selling all sorts of things. And if you fill out a form on their website, you'll just get a little thank you message, and you're not really sure, if they really got your message or if they're ever going to get back to you or anything like that. And it's pretty basic and it can be done a lot better. And that's what I want to show you how to do here. Let's pretend that we're actually running a WeWork co-working space or some kind of business like that. And let's think about how we could use this form system that we've built to better qualify leads. And realistically, I don't run a co-working space, so I don't know if this is realistic advice here, but I'm just going to make some educated guesses. So one thing we might want to do is, instead of saying thank you, we'll be in touch, let's go ahead and just remove this element because we really don't want to say that. Why don't we get some more information on whoever's requesting to see this building, for example. And let's go ahead and change this from download my free guide to request a tour or something like this. So why don't we go ahead and add in something like, we could do anything. We could do multiple choice buttons, for example, and we can come in here and we can modify this. So what happens is when you choose any kind of field type, it's got some default text that it's going to use as the label for the input. So in the case of multiple choice buttons, it's just multiple choice. So what you need to come in here and do is type in some kind of question. So what we could maybe ask is something along the lines of how many people are on your team. And I guess I've typed this before, so it's pre-prompting me. And then down here we can enter possible answers. So we could say it's just me. We could say 2 to 5. We could say 6 to 10. We could do 10 to 20. And then maybe we do one that's like 20 plus. And we just leave it at that. So we'll update that element, and you'll see now it'll flip around and have this really nice little like teal button look. And let's go ahead and open this back up in a new tab over here. And let me come back to where I was over here. Okay, just to kind of have these both in their own tabs and keep track of where we are. So I've already filled this out, and it's got my, it's using the session in my browser to keep track of who I am right now. So it's got my stuff pre-populated. But now if I click request a tour, it's going to say how many people are on your team, and it's going to give me these options here. So let's keep going with customizing this a little bit, and then let's see what kind of tricks we can do with it. So one of the last WeWork offices that I worked in was mostly bigger office spaces. They had a handful of like 3 or 4 person offices, and they really didn't have a lot of 1 person offices. So if somebody's filling out this form and they answer the question, it's just me, that WeWork in particular might be looking to try to sell a hot desk subscription, which is their sort of, come in and sit where you want kind of subscription, and it costs less money and it's more approachable for young entrepreneurs or whatever the different situation. But they don't have a supply of one desk offices in particular, so really that would be the main thing they're trying to sell. So let's suppose that what we want to do is update this person in our email marketing system and start sending them material that's relevant for people who are potentially going to get a hot desk. So how could we go about doing that? So down here in our actions section, if we come in and we click this tag an email subscriber, and again, this is our ConvertKit integration. We could integrate with any email marketing system that you want, and we already have several integrations built. So this could work differently depending on the system, but you'll get the idea once we run through this. So again, I don't run this business, but I went ahead and added some tags into our ConvertKit account just as an example. So I could come down here and say, all right, I want to tag this person with this hot desk tag, and maybe that kicks off some automation sequence over in ConvertKit. So I click next, and I only want to tag the people who say it's just me with this hot desk option. So if I say how many people are on your team is equal to it's just me, and again you have all the options here, and then I click finish, we'll get this little action down here that says if how many people are on your team is equal to it's just me, tag the ConvertKit subscriber with the tag hot desk. And I'm not going to go through every single one, but I'll show you one more. So we can do the same thing, and we can say tag an email subscriber. And I want to say something like small office is I think the one that I added, small office. And we want to say if how many people are on your team is equal to 2 to 5. And this is just an example. And maybe there's different reasons you want to do that. Maybe you have different email marketing that goes out to people who want a small office potentially. You don't have to just integrate with ConvertKit here. You could have your CRM system, so HubSpot or Salesforce, and you could say, if somebody's interested in a small office, put them in, Barbara's sales pipeline or whoever. And if they're interested in a large office, put them in Samantha's pipeline. Again, this is all just made up examples, but you can do this sort of logic, as complicated as you feel like. So we can keep this going, and I want to take a look at one or two more steps here. You can add as many steps as you like, obviously, but it becomes kind of straightforward and easy to understand once you see a few. So we don't need to do too many. But if I add a new element and I say something like, I want to get let's do a yes/no, just to show you what that looks like. And instead of yes/no, I'm going to say something like, have you ever rented an office in a co-working space before? Maybe we actually want to know, have you ever rented a private office in a co-working space before? Something like that. So that's going to give us a little yes, no. And again, we could build out more actions on top of that. And let's do one more, and let's say, let's have a number here. And let's click on this again, and we'll say, what is your estimated monthly budget for an office space? And maybe you wouldn't ask that question so directly. That's very possible, and we'll make that one required. But maybe you would. I don't know. So we'll just go ahead and add it and see what we think about it in a minute. So one thing we can do here, now that we have a number field, is add one more little action. And we can tag them as well. We can just keep with that action. Again, I don't have a lot of integrations connected here, so we don't need to go crazy. But maybe we'll just tag this with a warm lead. But what I really wanted to show is if we click this, what is your estimated budget option, the number fields are where these greater than, less than comparison operations make sense. So that doesn't really make sense if you have a multiple choice, because they're not they're like discrete basically. So you couldn't really do greater than, less than, but with numbers you can, obviously. So if we say something like, if the answer they provide is greater than or equal to 1,000, we'll tag them as a warm lead maybe. Now again, like this really could be done a lot more fine-grained, and I'll kind of indicate how in just a second, but I want to show you how this looks. So if what is your estimated monthly, and we put a little ellipsis here if the question is really long so the text doesn't wrap, and then basically, but that kind of gives you clarity about what question you're talking about. If that's greater than or equal to 1,000, add the tag warm. So I wanted to do a couple, I'm not going to go through all of this because it becomes very complicated, but I want to show you how you could start to play with it, and then I'll make some longer videos in the future where we really dig into how to do some more sophisticated stuff. But that's not the point of this video. but I just want to point you in the direction. So you'll see what I'm saying in a second. So if I add a new action here, there's some stuff that you can do. So you can redirect to another flow. And let's suppose that we have another like child flow or something, which I'll show you how to set up later. But basically, maybe you have a whole sequence of questions you want to ask people if you indicate, or if you figure out that maybe they're more of like an enterprise client. So maybe you find out that they actually have 20 or more people and they've got a $15,000 a month budget for their office. Maybe you want to send them to a different line of questioning because they're a little bit of a different kind of client. So you could actually build, I don't have any other flows right now to redirect to because this is the only one that I've built, but you could actually start here and redirect to a different place and take them through a different line of questioning and kind of keep it on going. So that's an option. I just wanted to point that out. But to do that, you'll need to set up some other flows, and you can set up like child flows and nested child flows and so on and so forth. We'll delve into that much later, but if you want to go ahead and play with it, obviously feel free. But let's go ahead and do one last step here. And again, like at some point you do have to get to like a thank you page or something, or redirect to, some other action. So in actual fact, you could redirect it Calendly so they could actually book time. So specifically, if I were actually running a WeWork flow, I'm making all these questions up. Obviously, you would want to run through with your team and see what all kinds of questions make sense for in a real setting. But one thing that I might probably do is once you get to this last question, I would probably set up some logic so that if you answer the questions in the right way, we redirect you to a calendar of some kind to schedule time to visit. Now, I don't know how they run all their stuff internally or whatever, and I know that they have their own software, so they're not really necessarily a customer here or a user, but I think you could emulate a similar thing using this technology that we've built. Anyway, I'm getting off track here, but let's just kind of set up a really basic thank you page, and then let's have a look at how this works. So we'll just add some text. Where is that? Paragraph rich text down here. And I'm just going to say thanks. And that's all, because this video is getting a little bit long. So, and then let's do a little bit of customization. I want to center that vertically. I want to center that vertically just to make sure it looks pretty good. And what do we do? Like kind of a more like blue for the button color. We can leave that saying next. Thanks, that's fine. We'll just leave that alone. Okay, so let's go try it out. So let's go back here, start from the beginning, and just kind of click through. So, okay, so request a tour. I type my name and email. It's just me. Have you ever rented a private working space before? No. What's your estimated budget? I'm going to say it's $900. Next. And then we just get our thanks. So, I mean, it's really straightforward. I mean, and actually the user interface for this is very, very simple. It's not anything fancy. What I will point out after using this system on our own to run ads for other things for a while, these buttons get very high conversion rates because it's so easy to just click. So it's actually really a waste if you just send people to a thank you page from the beginning, because you can get a lot of extra data. We've had situations where we've set up 6 or 8 steps after the initial one, and the conversion rate all the way through is something like 80% because it's just so easy to click these buttons. So I'm a big fan of these categorical kind of questions like this because it makes it so easy. Once you get people having to type, they start, skipping those steps or whatever. So, or just kind of the conversion might fall off a little bit here. But anyway, that's just some food for thought. That's not really the point of this video. So now we have walked through basically setting up a little bit more sophisticated flow. You've seen how to set up actions that involve logic here. So you kind of have the gist now of how this works. The thing about this tool is it's a little bit abstract, obviously. So depending on what integrations you set up, and depending on what kind of questions you ask and what data types you use for those questions, you can do all sorts of things. So really, the sky is kind of the limit here. And as we add more and more features, that's going to be more and more true. You know, as a programmer myself, I can immediately start thinking about how do we add extra layers of conditions and so on and so forth. And I think we'll get there. But for now, we've kind of kept this a little bit simple because it's already quite a bit to take in. But as always, if you have any questions or if you have any feedback or feature requests or anything like that or ideas as you're watching these videos, I'd love to hear from you. My email is Stephen, Stephen, at leadjetty.com. And you can also reach out right here by clicking on this box, not this one because this is our test account, obviously. But on the real website, you should have a real box here that you can talk to us through. With all of that said, I will talk to you in the next video. I believe we'll be looking at how to set up properties and how to customize your team and all of these sorts of things. Again, you're always going to have these list of videos over here on the home page, and we're going to be building out a pretty good set. Don't know exactly how many, but be sure to check there if you ever have a question, and we'll send out some emails on how to find help for things. So anyway, all of that said, hope this was helpful, and I'll talk to you next time.